Okay, great. I think we'll get started. We might have some people popping in throughout. Uh, Thank you very much, everyone, for joining today. We're very excited to put on our webinar with LiveHire, both Broadleaf and LiveHire in our partnership. Wanted to give a couple notices. We're going to be recording this session, so we can feel free to share that with you guys afterwards. Also, we have the chat button optional up top. So if you have questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to pop them in there, reactions, whatever you want. We're going to try and end a couple minutes early, and that way we'll be able to address the questions and get some of the answers from our subject matter experts. But with that being said, we're very excited today to be presenting our webinar on enabling total talent acquisition with direct sourcing, partnership with LiveHire and Broadleaf. So thank you very much, everyone. So for today's agenda, we're going to do some introductions, talk a little bit about our individual companies. We're very happy to have Karen on the call with us, and she'll be describing and walking you through what LiveHire is, and I'll be doing the same for Broadleaf. We'll also be answering the age-old question, or the new age question, I should say. What is direct sourcing? What are the benefits of it? There's lots of benefits, so we're going to want to walk through those. How direct sourcing fits into a MSP, a managed service provider program, and RPO program. What it looks like to implement a direct sourcing solution. So there are some steps that you need to go through. And then lastly, we'll finish off discussing how you want to enable your total talent acquisition strategy. So a little bit about Broadleaf. We're over a 65-year-old business. You see 60 plus years over on the left. We started out as a traditional staffing company. And over the years, over the 60 plus years, we've actually evolved into a total talent management company. We're very, very proud to be a WeBank certified company. So we're privately held and woman owned. All the money that goes through, all the spend that goes through our programs actually goes through the diverse spend. So it's a very important component of our business. We have over 11 plus years delivering outsourced recruiting services, and that's really key. RPOs have obviously stepped up quite a bit lately, and we've been one of the founders of the game. Also, from a technology aspect, we developed our own VMS, vendor management software service, roughly about 25 years ago. We were one of the first ones in the market, and we recently sunsetted it, but that shows you that we have a tremendous amount of experience and background in providing technology solutions as well, which leads us to partnerships with companies like LiveHire. We are routinely awarded every year by HRO Today, SIA, RPOA for being on the Baker's Dozen. And that's really important. That tells us that our clients, not only our clients, but also our suppliers, so our staffing companies, really enjoy working with us, and they provide over 96% positive customer satisfaction. So that's really key for our business. We believe in high quality, high touch, and that's how we stand apart from our competition.
Great. So I want to, first of all, I'm Karen Gonzalez. I lead the business in North America, and I wanted to talk a little bit about LiveHire. We want to spend most of the time talking about direct sourcing, but I think it's important for the audience to understand what we do and why clients choose to work with us. So LiveHire has been around since 2011. So we actually have the most experience when it comes to direct sourcing and total talent management out of any of the direct sourcing platforms. Ardent ranked us as the best direct sourcing platform. And you can see that in the quadrant on the right. Not all of those companies deliver direct sourcing, but of the ones that are listed, we are the leader in the space. We are a publicly traded company. We are based in Australia. We then expanded to New Zealand and other parts of APAC, and then expanded into North America about 3 years ago. We have approximately 170 clients in our portfolio today. A lot of those are utilizing us for total talent. Most of our clients in North America are using us for contingent, although as clients move more towards a total talent model, we certainly are seeing more interest in utilizing us in that way here as well. Diversity is extremely important to us. So our platform was actually built to ensure that we deliver a diverse group of candidates. And really, I think one of the things that sets us apart is the fact that we were really built and developed around the candidate experience. and the user experience. So if you're a recruiter, we have an exceptional recruiter experience as well. And the reason for that is we knew how important that candidate experience was and the link between the candidate experience and how that person views a company's brand. So rather than developing the technology first and reverse engineering into the candidate experience, we built the technology around that candidate and recruiter experience. So it's something that really differentiates us in the market. So when we talk about direct sourcing, I feel like if you ask 10 people how to define it, you'd probably still get 10 different answers, even though I feel like we've been talking about direct sourcing quite a bit over the last 18 to 24 months. The way that we define direct sourcing is really working with companies to leverage their brand to source and attract quality talent, often at a discounted rate, and ensuring that we have kind of this three-legged stool. So when you think about direct sourcing, there's kind of three major components. There's the people, the technology, and the process. So people would be the curation team, would potentially include the MSP as well. The technology would be companies like LiveHire, maybe the VMS, and the process would be, that would include payrolling. So we bring these components together to offer a turnkey holistic solution to the client. And we offer this by creating private talent pools that are really an asset for that client. And it's one of the major differences between a traditional staffing model versus a direct sourcing model. In terms of some of the benefits, obviously, I think cost savings is kind of a byproduct of direct sourcing. We'll talk a little bit more about that on a later slide. But I think in addition, you'll see an acceleration in your time to hire. You'll certainly see an improvement in the candidate experience and how people perceive your brand. So those are just some of the benefits that will be the result of implementing a direct sourcing strategy. So how does direct sourcing fit into your current workforce solution ecosystem? So certainly you can see on this slide, we are not saying that direct sourcing is going to replace all of your suppliers. That's not typically what we see happen. When you think about direct sourcing, because it is a solution that scales over time, what you will have an opportunity to do is probably optimize your supply base at some point, just like when you implement an MSP. Because the program becomes more efficient, you may not need as many suppliers, but the suppliers that you do utilize will be strategic suppliers. Most often than not, you will see a 5 to 12 point decrease in your markup, which ultimately will result in cost savings for your program. You can see from this slide that direct sourcing kind of sits in the middle between the client and your supply base. So ultimately, what you want to do is reach into your own talent pool that's being developed, that's being created for you by us, to see if we've got the right talent in that talent pool. And if not, then it would be sent out to the rest of the supply base. So you still will need suppliers, especially for some of the more niche roles, but it does create efficiencies, cost savings, and it really allows you to get talent into those seats faster in a more efficient way. And typically, in terms of what you can expect from that scaling and what you can expect after a 12-month period, I would say most programs can scale to about 60% or more in the first 12 months. Now, that will take place if you kind of follow the best practices. And there are some things that you would need to do in order to make sure that can happen. Most often than not, we can certainly get to 25% between, I would say, probably 4 to 6 months, and then continue to grow from there. We actually have one client in Australia where we're almost at 100% of their recs going through direct sourcing. I don't think that's typical, but I think you can expect to see 60% plus after 12 months.
All right. Hi, I'm Kelly Reed, and I'm in Business Solutions with Broadleaf, and I'm going to talk a little bit now about how direct sourcing fits into MSPs and RPO programs. So as many of you may already be aware, Broadleaf's best-in-class MSP and RPO service offerings already provide a host of benefits to contingent and full-time hiring for our clients. And we feel like direct sourcing is a perfect companion to these programs. we're able to draw upon our brand stewardship experience from our RPO programs to leverage the client's employer brand. So this, along with our expertise in candidate outreach and attraction methods, makes building a private database of qualified and interested contractor candidates a seamless transition. Also, our MSP teams are experts at pairing technology with our best practices for contingent staffing. So using a robust and intuitive talent pooling technology like LiveHire, and with decades of experience identifying and understanding the pathways to success, we create a more efficient and scalable solution that really does reduce co-employment risk, can be launched very quickly with little to no startup costs or resources needed, and targets repeatable and concentrated roles where candidates often fall through the cracks. One metric I don't have listed here, but that I'm aware of, is that we've had some polls where we have learned that 50% of full-time applicants are also open to contingent opportunities. And so right there is a great candidate pool that's often overlooked for these repeatable roles. That's what we're looking to kind of fill in the gap. So it falls sort of in between the RPO and the MSP world, and is a great addition to those programs. Next, I'd like to talk a little bit more about the implementation approach. So Broadleaf's approach to implementation for any new program or service line is measured, thoughtful, and strategic. In this case, it's very quick turnaround to start this type of thing up. We start by assessing your current state and identifying short and long-term goals. Job forecasting, of course, is a very critical component of successful direct sourcing programs as well. And with LiveHire's sophisticated analytics tools, we can quickly identify target roles and locations where this approach will have the greatest effect. LiveHire is able to configure the technology with branding and process requirements in very little time. And then we deploy the program with ongoing monitoring, forecasting, and optimization.
Can I just add one thing here? I'm sorry. I just want to say, from an implementation standpoint, for those of you that have implemented an MSP and or a VMS, it certainly is going to take some time. So you see 2 to 4 weeks here. That really is realistic. And I think a lot of times people think, okay, this is going to be something super complex. I'm going to need a ton of resources on my side to support it. And all the heavy lifting is really done by your MSP and your curation partner and your technology. So that's why that timeline is reduced. So I just wanted to point that out, because I know sometimes you look at 2 to 4 weeks and it may feel like that's really short, but that's very realistic for a direct sourcing solution.
That's a great point too, that you bring up, because yeah, you're right. In MSP, as we all know, it is a long implementation cycle. So this is definitely a trait of this program that stands above the rest, for sure, without a doubt. And so we'll move on to the next one. So when we talk about total talent acquisition, I think it's really key in this market, and in this day and age. It's really important for all of us to recognize, and I think the people that are on the call and that will watch this later, I know we keep going back to the war for talent. We were just at HRO today in Philadelphia, and it was brought up, well, the war for talent. Well, talent's won the war. They're driving it right now. And I think these are all key points, but I think it is important to note that when you find really solid tools that can help build your program up, because it has to be an overall total talent acquisition strategy. No longer are we in the days when you can just throw something at the wall, hope it sticks, and people will come in and start filling your jobs. There's a lot that goes into these programs, MSPs, RPOs, but also partnering with companies such as LiveHire, where you're just bringing one more added piece to the toolbox. And that's really what it's come down to. We constantly talk about the Great Resignation, the Great Rehire, all of these terms. What we're finding more than ever is that communication is key, for sure. But also what we're finding is that we have to figure out ways to get out and communicate, and communicate in a different way with talent right now. A lot of our studies are showing currently that people are money is key, for sure, and salary is key, for sure, but quality of life more than ever. Quality of life is coming to the very top of the list of things that people are looking for. And so When you really break that down, tools, you need to have all the tools in your toolbox to put together a total talent acquisition strategy. And that goes into AI, analytics, data management, et cetera. And with companies like Broadleaf and LiveHire, we've been doing this for years. So we see the trends in the market. We can look into our analytics and see what's happening, and we can try and be ahead of it and help out. It's really important to loosen the constraints of your silos that you are thinking about talent holistically. That's a really key point. Companies that are succeeding right now are thinking outside the box, and that's the truth of it. If you're just looking at it like, well, this is how we've always hired in the past, I'm pretty sure that you're falling behind and you're losing in the war for talent. It's really important, and I know this might seem obvious, but it's really important to map out a plan for each population and relevant workflows for your sourcing channels. You can't just look at it as you have in the past. You need to have and there's different strategies within each sourcing channels. But when you bring them all together as part of your overall strategy, that's now how you get a leg up on your competition. Make sure your contingent worker program is ready and capable to start and sustain the journey. That's really important. You have to set it up properly so that candidates are not just jumping in and then they're not following all the way through. If you have candidates, filling the top of the funnel is incredibly important. It's the most important part of talent acquisition, but making sure that that funnel continues to flow down and there's no stopgaps where people are falling out is incredibly important too. And then achieve cost savings. That's what companies want. And then they can take that money and put it elsewhere, increase flexibility to fill difficult roles. Also, we talk about that in a flex RPO style program, so where you're able to, adapt and move and be nimble. It also will help increase in your bottom line business outcomes. So as you continue to fill your needs with the talent shortage that you have, now you're able to go out and fill your customers' needs. Better informed workforce planning. That's probably one of the key things that we talk about on every single call. I'm sure Karen has the same commentary that I would have. It's this workforce strategy planning. What can we do to make ourselves stand apart to bring more candidates into our funnel? Increased retention. Most companies know that, and we're all feeling that. But the cost of losing an employee is greater than it's ever been. And so you need to make sure you win that battle right from the very beginning, and you make sure that you keep them. So it's an increased retention rate, and then better utilization of your staff. So as you can see on the right, we've got some chart showing how you employ the talent, how you you work with the talent. It all goes into compensation, the management, and the acquisition. It's a constantly moving strategy. So having said that, I think we do have a couple questions. I know we sort of flew through that a little bit, but I will look into the chat real quick.
And while you're doing that, I just
Yeah.
have a couple comments, and this is great. So one question that I get asked a lot is, what skill sets or what kind of skills is direct sourcing good for? And you heard us talk a little bit about forecasting, and you're really moving more from a reactive approach to recruiting to a proactive approach. And so having the ability to look at who you've hired in the past is really important so that we can understand where we need to build the talent pools first to make sure that we've got the talent pools full enough. So when that requisition comes through, we're filling it through the talent pool and maximizing the value for you. And then the second thing I would say is, in terms of cost savings, as you're moving more towards a total talent model, one of the things that a lot of companies are allowing us to do is send invites to people in their past candidate database. And this goes back to the stat that we talked about, that 50% of candidates that apply for full-time work will also accept a contractor or temporary role. And so we don't need PII. We could literally just send an email to that person to say, would you like to be part of ABC talent community? And if the answer is yes, then we are putting them into various talent pools based on their skills. And it's really an opportunity to kind of do a free refresh of the people that are already in your database and really leveraging the investment that you've already made in that talent. So just want to point out those couple of things. So I think it's another way to kind of not only realize cost savings, but really maximize the investment that you've made in talent.
Yeah, absolutely. And that goes into retention, just like you said. Yeah, great point. So I'll throw out the first question. Do you offer a service where the VMS is owned and administered by the client, but they want to expand on their direct sourcing?
So yes, we actually are in several programs that are currently self-managed. If you have a VMS, that's great. Your VMS would still be your system of record. And then we would be working in the background to implement that direct sourcing strategy. I think the question is, for those companies that are self-managing is, if you're thinking about recruiting internally versus outsourcing, there's some things that you need to think about. One is, if you've already got an ATS, then our recommendation would be that you have a separate team that would be working within your direct sourcing platform like LiveHire, that's strictly focused on contingent, and you have a separate team that's focused on full-time, because otherwise you've got people working in two different systems. So if that's not possible, then our recommendation is to outsource the curation piece. So hopefully that helps and answers your question.
Yeah, and I'll expand upon that. So from Broadleaf's perspective, we are a VMS agnostic company. So we work with the top VMSs in the market. We're a preferred partner with all of them. And so we will let the contract be directly held by the client with the VMS. We'll have a separate contract, or we can contract with the VMS directly and have that flow through the MSP. Just as a side comment, I think Karen said it perfectly. Yes, if you do have your own VMS, you can definitely look into direct sourcing. But I would also encourage you that even with VMSs, it really is critical to always be considering an MSP solution and outsourcing it, because frankly, that's what we're really good at. And so we can bring that to you and bring that as a benefit. One more question. Good question too. Hi all, is the process on the client side that they would release open recs to both suppliers and the DS partner at the same time? Or does the DS partner work on it first? Or can the client hiring managers access the DS tool to search themselves on a self-service basis?
Do you want, I'll take a stab at part of that question. So I think I know where you're going with this. So the idea is that because we're building a private talent pool for you, that it becomes your asset, you always want to reach into the talent pool first to see if you've got the right candidate. We're not saying you have to wait 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, whatever, to send it out to the rest of the supply base. We can determine that very, very quickly, but that's how you're going to maximize your value. And so our recommendation is check the talent pool first. If there's not the right candidate, then it goes out to the rest of the supply base. And what you'll see is over time, the percentage going through direct sourcing will increase, but you'll still have a number of recs that are going to continue to go out to the rest of your supply base. And I'm just going to go back to what I said earlier. Because we're creating an asset for you, this is very different than a traditional model. So let's say we're leveraging your brand. We're out there advertising for a specific role. Let's say you have 3 openings and we get 50 applicants. We place 3 people, but what happens to those other 47 people that we attracted using your brand? If I'm a traditional supplier and I grew up in the staffing industry, my job is to place those candidates as quickly as possible, regardless of where I place them, because I've spent the money to advertise and to source those candidates. In a direct sourcing model, those 47 they're kept within that talent pool. We continue to nurture them to make sure that they're available for the next role that comes out. And the curation team that is managing those talent pools, they are not plucking people from your talent pool to place at another potentially another company that could be a competitor. So that's the biggest difference. When we say this is an asset for you, this is true. This is truly your private talent pool, and those people are not being plucked to place anywhere else. You're never going to have a candidate taken out of your talent pool and placed at a competitor site.
Really good point. Yeah, and that's a key solution in most MSPs. We call them silver medalists, alumni program. But yeah, I mean, if they're not kept within a talent pool, they're quick to leave. And as an MSP, we will look to put them somewhere else. So this allows them to maintain and still stay in that same pool. I think both of you guys can answer this question, so I'll let Kelly take a stab at it, and then Karen can probably finish off, and this will probably be our last question. If we use over 60 suppliers through the MSP, do our managers / recruiters have access to look in LiveHire for all the previous temp workers? Also, does it show you if they are eligible for rehire?
All right, great. So I'll tell you that Broadleaf brings a team to the table to assist with all of the curation process. And so it would not typically be a situation where hiring managers would go right into the direct sourcing tool. But just as with any other MSP program, our teams will go in and take a look, conduct the outreach, keep those candidates warm, and then submit candidates who have expressed an interest in the role and that have been shortlisted so that managers are able to continue with their normal day. They're not spending a whole lot of time digging through a lot of resumes. They're really looking at folks that are hot, ready now, and good for the role. So we do provide that service as well. And then what was the other part of that question as far as?
Are they eligible? Does it show if they're eligible for rehire?
Oh, yes, of course. So if they're part of that talent community, that means that they're eligible. So we would not have folks in that community that were not eligible for rehire. So that's part of the process that LiveHire goes through when putting together, like, let's say we're grabbing from the client's database to populate with silver medalist candidates. That data is going to be curated, scrubbed, make sure it's clean, make sure we eliminate anybody that's had a negative reason for leaving, or if there's a requirement for them to be gone for a certain amount of time before that they can return. Those types of things are all taken into account whenever we populate those talent pools.
Yeah, and I would just add that we do have a suite of reporting. If you have a VMS, you're getting a lot of reports through your VMS as well. And there are reports that certainly as a client that you could potentially access. But from a recruiting standpoint, that would all be done typically by a third-party curation team.
Absolutely. Great. Well, thank you all very much. This was actually, I learned even something on the call today, which is awesome. Great to hear. Karen, you've enlightened us again. Great job, Kelly. Excellent questions. I thought those were awesome. The three of us are always available to answer any questions and would be happy to get on a call at any point in time, either collectively or individually, to talk about what your total talent strategy looks like and help you develop that. You can feel free to reach out to Karen or myself. We'll make sure that this information does get posted and sent out so that more people can see it. We hope everyone has a wonderful and safe day, and thank you all very much for joining the call.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.